Episode 8 of Down Cemetery Road begins with Hamza in the Scottish village, watching as Sarah and Dinah make it back to shore. He messages C to let him know what's going on, who replies, "Finish it." Before Amos rocks up though, Zoe appears alongside the Scottish captain Donnie. Turns out she survived the blast, but that's the least of their problems right now. Police obviously have a warrant out for Zoe and are actively looking for her. After getting a ride on the bus to the train station, Amos hotwires a car of his own and heads off in pursuit, as does Hamza. Meanwhile, Talia confronts C about the soldiers and everything that's happened this season. He calls them war criminals and explains that he gave them an opportunity to volunteer in research and development. The military were developing a new weapon and antidote, meaning the soldiers were human guinea pigs. This is obviously deeply immoral, and Talia is shocked to learn the department has committed massive war crimes. However, C reassures her that he has top government agents containing the situation. I really hope he doesn't mean Hamza here because, yeah. Speaking of which, Hamza commandeers the bus Zoe is on and drives straight past the train station. In fact, he drives straight past a whole bunch of other passengers waiting to get on, which might be the most realistic part of this season. Zoe distracts Hamza enough that he loses control and crashes right into a graveyard. Holding the trio at gunpoint, Hamza leads them into the church and waits for backup, given he can't pull the trigger himself. Dinah manages to wedge free a metal spike from the pews here, which she gives to Zoe, while Amos hones in on their location. He throws a grenade inside the church and then confronts Hamza regarding his belittling words against Axel. Now Hamza holds Amos at gunpoint but can't pull the trigger. Unfortunately, despite managing to slip under the church via the vents and make it outside, Dinah immediately looks back inside the church again. Now Hamza spots her at the window and rushes outside to go on the hunt. Sarah is not far behind and eventually holds Hamza at gunpoint with a shotgun grabbed from her bag on board the bus. After a bit of back and forth, Hamza takes a shotgun for himself, looks set to shoot Sarah, and ends up blowing half his hand off when he pulls the trigger. It turns out the plugs were still in and he's left mutilated but still very much alive. As for Amos, he manages to grab Zoe and pulls her back into the church. However, that spike comes in real handy here to turn the tables and she stabs Amos in the eye. He staggers back, slips on a toy train and smacks his head right on the stone, killing him instantly. Now Sarah and Zoe are eventually reunited with Dinah outside and they take off in Amos's stolen car. They eventually get back on the train to London without any issues. En route, Zoe calls Wayne and tells him to go global with what they've uncovered. The pair then toast to Joe while the chemical testing footage goes, for lack of a better word, viral. Talia scrambles to shed all evidence of this in her office, while C is going to take the fall, fired from his position. Apparently he has plans of his own though, and we see this as he leaves Parliament. As he meets with a businessman who welcomes him to the private sector, while Talia is left to deal with a tough public interview. Back in London, Dinah is dropped off with Ella, just like Downey wanted. Zoe and Sarah then part ways, bringing the season to a close. So a mad scramble up in Scotland eventually sees all roads lead back to London and a rather rushed and hurried ending to this season. They do say an ending is one of the hardest parts of a story to get right, and in many ways, Down Cemetery Road undoes a lot of the foundational work developed across the season. It really struggles to give a compelling or satisfying send-off for anything we've witnessed over the weeks. Sarah and Zoe part ways no closer to actually developing as characters, given Sarah is now going back to her ruined life in London, while Zoe is back on the PI beat again. And that's of course before mentioning that she's still wanted by the police, right? Unless I'm missing something, of course. Dinah gets an okay ending by going off with Ella, at the wishes of Downey of course, but the whole government angle is just woefully mishandled. The only consequences for this video going viral, which took a lot of work and risk to get, let's be honest, comes from an uncomfortable interview and C getting fired. But then we see it's not really the end of it, as he's now part of the private sector, whatever that means. Now Hamza Malik has to be one of the worst characters in this show, and even at the end, his fumbling and, hilariously, cartoon antics failed to instill any sense of tension. I just can't believe that the Defense Department would actually employ someone like Hamza to go out in the field. What an absolute liability. To make matters worse though, the writers suddenly make him do a heel turn mid-episode, going all psychopath and chasing after Dinah before holding Sarah at gunpoint. It's such a shame too, because this one had such promise early on, which feels completely squandered by the end. Ultimately, Down Cemetery Road has had some good episodes and nice moments, but it's undoubtedly one that's fizzled out before the end. A shame for sure, but it's clear the ending is simply bait for a second season that may or may not arrive. Thanks for watching, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Smash a like or subscribe to the channel, your support is very much appreciated. I'm Greg Wheeler, and from all of us over here at The Review Geek, we'll see you on the next video.